Welcome to the Eating at a Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Stuckrath, dietary needs expert, certified meetings manager, certified food protection manager. I have searched the globe to find people and businesses who are creating safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experiences for their employees, guests, and communities. In each episode, you will find authentic conversations about how food and beverage impacts inclusion, sustainability, culture, community, health, and wellness. I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to cover it all. Are you ready to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line? If so, let's go.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Eating at a Meeting. I am your host, Tracy Stuckrath, and I'm excited to bring to you the last conversation of this month, for Food Allergy Awareness Month. Dr. Nana Miracu, she is a board-certified pediatric and adult allergist who has private practice, is the founder of Allergen IQ, which is a virtual allergy care clinic that improves access to allergy care, and she's out of Texas. So welcome, Dr. Miracu.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me, Tracy.
You're welcome. So food allergies. This is the last day of the month to talk about food. I'm not going to stop talking about food allergies, but for this month, what exactly, let's just give everybody the nuts and bolts of what actually is a food allergy. I know there's food sensitivities that people get tested for, and then there's food allergies. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. So a food allergy is essentially when the immune system creates an abnormal response to a protein. That's actually an allergy definition. And when you think about food, that protein could be a peanut or an egg. And so essentially the immune system is overreacting to that protein, resulting in lip swelling, hives, vomiting, diarrhea in that patient. And so that's called an allergic reaction when the immune system is fearful or overreacting.
And it seems to be, and a lot of people say, I'm like, why are so many people have food allergies and all these people with food allergies, and what do they have? Are the number of people with food allergies increasing?
That's a great and loaded question. But yes. And if you think about it, even over the past decade or past couple of decades, it's literally quadrupled. And so I call it that we're in an epidemic, essentially, for food allergy. And the real question is, why? And we don't understand all of the details, but there are several different hypotheses. Back in the day, we just say hygiene hypotheses, that we're living in feed environments and the immune system is essentially understimulated.
Well, and we were talking just before we came on, and your microphone is still going in and out a little bit, about the skin thing. And it reminds me of a friend of mine who got diagnosed with an allergy to garlic later in life. And we were supposed to be on a call, and she's like, I'm going to be late. And she found garlic to be in her hair product, and it was causing her face to break out and her hands to break out. And so not only she's allergic to that food, but that food is in a product that's not edible. Yes. That's just mind-boggling. Absolutely. Well, and the skin is one of the systems of our bodies that shows food allergy reactions. So, and hives and variety of different things. So we have them. Well, we already did the hypothesis, what causes them. We really don't know. But are there some preventative strategies for food allergies?
There are. And I alluded to it previously. I think the most important preventative strategy that has been helpful that we know about is really early introduction of allergic foods. And we really learned this from that landmark LEAP trial in 2015. And so now, as pediatricians and board certified allergists, one of our missions is to really spread the word about early introduction in young infants. And some of the obstacles and barriers that I encounter as a private practice allergist is, what about those cases where that parent has a 7-year-old who's anaphylactic to peanuts, but then the mom has a newborn baby? I find that they're reluctant to now follow these new guidelines. And so as professionals, as pediatricians and allergists, we hold their hands and walk them through that journey. So yes, we know that John, who's 7 years old, is allergic to peanuts, but we still need to introduce allergic foods earlier for your other child in order for a chance to prevent that food allergy in that infant.
That's interesting. Now, so broadening that, so my friend is allergic to garlic, but so allergen foods, it's documented that there's 170 foods that are known to cause allergic reactions. So it's really introducing all kinds of foods to your kid early on.
Yes, but there are 9 foods which are responsible for 85 to 90% of food allergies. So we focus on milk, egg, wheat, soy, peanuts, tree nuts, fish, shellfish, and now sesame.
Okay. Yep. And sesame became the top allergen officially, 2 years ago, and now is required on labeling. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And so it's amazing. And those 9 foods are 90% of the allergic reactions worldwide.
Yes. We're responsible for 85 to 90%. So as specialists, that's what we focus on initially. And there's a lot of emphasis on peanuts and eggs, really introducing that early in life, as well as the other allergic foods.
So I want to jump back a little bit in how you got into this. You went to medical school, and how did you decide to become an allergist? And then you're also a food allergy mom at the same time.
Yes. It wasn't planned. I can tell you that. But thanks for asking that question. I love science, love children. And so my whole life, I was going to be a pediatrician. I just knew I was going to do that. And so I went to my pediatric residency, but then really, as I tried to solve my own allergic problems, seasonal allergies, eczema, or allergy syndrome, I became extremely fascinated with the rapid change in science involved in allergy, immunology. So as I got myself skin tested, started immunotherapy, and started treating my own allergies, became fascinated with that specialty and decided to specialize in allergy immunology. And so I completed my fellowship and then decided to start practicing here in Texas, and had my daughter shortly thereafter, and was just horrified when we had that one day in the kitchen where I gave her a peanut butter sandwich at the age of 2, and she had full-blown anaphylaxis, 3 doses of the Pepias, and it was awful. And then I had my son, who also has multiple food allergies, so it wasn't planned. God did train me for this position, apparently, but it happened after I chose this specialty.
It's ironic or serendipitous, right? And I'm going to jump back to because I was listening to you on a different podcast that my friend Shandy, our friend Shandy Chernow, and she was saying in that situation with your daughter, you called the EMTs. And this is something that I think meeting planners, because we're speaking to a lot of meeting planners, is that the EMTs didn't have epinephrine.
I was just being a parent and so I wasn't set up for it, but because I am an allergist, I quickly recognized it, which really stems my passion, because I'm thinking about how quickly I was able to identify it. But had it been another parent, how many times would this have occurred for them before they were able to mobilize as quickly as I was? And so I'm extremely empathic about that situation. And being able to identify, one of my missions is really providing education for families.
Well, and even for EMTs as well, because a lot of times they don't know the reactions. And my friend Heather was in a similar situation with her 8-year-old daughter I think last year. She had no idea, but her daughter was like, I can't breathe, and started throwing up. But she's like, I don't know if it's from listening to me or what, but she ended up taking her daughter to the emergency room. And yeah, so, but you might not see that. One of the things that I saw in an article, and I think this is really important for people to understand, is that food allergies are not a one size fits all. Right. And it's what you said, quote, one size fits none.
Yes, I always say it's a one size fits none, because I really want to emphasize that every patient's journey is completely different. And so when I have the privilege to be with a family and they are sharing with me their anxiety about having another reaction, they are sharing with me their desire to understand, I really need to meet them where they are. Do they even understand the difference between a food allergy versus food intolerance? Or do I need to start there? Or have they been dealing with this, have their EpiPen, had reactions, and are now wanting to know, how can I prevent this or start treatment measures? So I always start off as a blank slate, really trying to understand where they are in their journey. And each protocol or each treatment pathway is completely personalized in my practice and my virtual care practice, so that it culturally includes them. Right? And we have to think about where they're coming from, what are the foods that they want to eat. And so we include this, and each person's journey is completely different.
And I think that's when you're in the position of also ordering food for people or serving food to people, we have to take that into consideration. It's like, we just can't create this blanket menu and think it's going to serve everybody. And lo and behold, we don't want everybody to remove all of 9 allergens from their menus, because that's too impossible.
Right.
And I think that gives chefs, such an opportunity to create a personalized menu for people. I don't think it's a burden. I think it's an opportunity.
It is an opportunity. It is an opportunity to serve this community.
And there's a lot with 15 million, or not 15, that was the old number, 32 million Americans. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. And in the United States, 220 million worldwide, 32 million in the United States, 6 million children, and 40% of those children have multiple food allergies.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a gap. There is a need for individuals like us and our community. And I love that there's such a strong, growing food allergy community that we all need to work together to solve this. This is going to be something that we all, chefs, dietitians, allergists, pediatricians, community health workers, parents, caregivers, we need to work together as we all are well aligned to improve this for our families and our children.
And one of the other quotes that I love that you say to people, your patients too, is that it's not your fault, right? And because your body just doesn't like something. And is there a way to fix that though?
It's not, but I'm always disheartened because I'll meet families or moms like myself, and they'll be like, oh, is it because I didn't early introduce? And no, we all, myself included, when I had my kids, those guidelines weren't available. So we all are working at the top of our knowledge for what's the evidence available at that time. And let's not forget to mention, there are also several families that early introduce, and unfortunately, that kids still have food allergies. So we don't understand all of the intricacies that lead to a food allergy individual. So I always start with, it's not your fault, but I'm so glad you're here to start really piecing this together, getting diagnosed, getting treatment, getting an EpiPen, educating your community. That is what we have control over.
Well, and I think too, and you said it culturally appropriate too. I like that, because you could be in, I'm going to say the Bronx or Beverly Hills or Atlanta and Portland or Idaho, right? And
we're out of the country.
Or out of the country, and you have an allergic reaction. You never had an allergic reaction to XYZ food, but then you go eat it somewhere else, and maybe there's a different spice that's used, or that the air, whatever around you is different. Is that right?
So yeah. So really, I let the patient exactly meet them where they're at, and once you meet the patient where you're at, they're going to tell you how they want to manage their food allergy. And my job is to be a guide, add the science, add the evidence, add the recommendations, but then to fit it into their world. And so when we approach chronic care management, food allergy management, eczema management, asthma management, in that way, now we have an empowered family. They feel control over their allergy. They feel empowered with the evidence and education, and they are ready to tackle this condition and to thrive with it.
That's such a positive experience, a way to look at it, because you don't want to be burdened by it.
Right.
And you want to, and I was reading some young lady's allergies. She's like, this is me. This is who I am. And I can't get rid of it.
Yeah. You don't have to, it's a condition that you have. It doesn't have to explain all of your being, right? It's something that you have, that you're managing, but there's so many other things as well.
Right. So what are some treatments that are possible treatment options besides avoidance And know at the beginning of the month there was an article or a story online about a little patch that's being given to toddlers to put on their back, specifically for peanuts, to help with those reactions. Can you?
Yes, that's the news, and it's still got a little bit more work to do, but it's looking really positive. Looking at patients who applied the patch, infants that applied the patch on their back and rotated, and they were able to at the end to tolerate one peanut. So a little bit more work to be done. That's called extracutaneous immunotherapy. So it's one of our immunotherapy options that we may have as part of our tools in the future. And you mentioned avoidance is an option, right? For some families, like I said, I meet them where you are. We give you the options. And for some families, avoidance, carrying your EpiPen, having your food allergy, anaphylaxis plan, that is what they want to do. There are other options such as oral immunotherapy and food sublingual immunotherapy. Oral immunotherapy is affectionately called OIT by many, is where we desensitize you to what you're allergic to. And food sublingual immunotherapy is another desensitization procedure that we add drops under the tongue. And the outcomes may be different. So whereas food sublingual immunotherapy, you will get desensitized to a much lower threshold, maybe cross-contamination levels are a little bit more. And oral immunotherapy has the ability to be desensitized at a higher dose. And so there are risks involved with oral immunotherapy. 3 to 5% of patients can get a condition called eosinophilic esophagitis, but many patients do very well and are excited by being able to have the food. And other patients are not interested in having such high doses of that food protein. They're just like, Dr. Mariku, I just want to be desensitized so that I don't have cross-contamination episodes. So here again, it's super important for us to sit down with our families and ask them, what is the end goal? Like, what is the end goal? And by understanding where this family wants to be, do you want to continue to avoid but have cross-contamination protection? Or do you want to eat this food? That's how we can tailor the therapies and provide recommendations.
So eventually, potentially, somebody could be completely desensitized from that allergen through, I'm going to say, years of desensitization. It's not going to happen overnight. Yeah.
Yes, it takes time. But even when you get to what's called, you build up that tolerance level. Even when you build up that tolerance level, for example, peanut, you still need to maintain that food protein in your diet. So it is a procedure. It requires all hands on deck. If you're dealing with an adolescent, we need their buy-in to go with such a procedure. So we talk a lot about the beginning of what it takes to be successful. And if it's the right recommendation for you.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, there was another one that came in that was brought to my attention recently, and I'm assuming this falls under food allergies as well, but mast cell activation syndrome.
That's quite different.
That is quite different. Okay. I know it causes allergic reactions or anaphylactic reactions,
Yes.
But now if we can jump back to the culturally relevant as well, but food allergies they're widespread. It doesn't matter if you're Asian, Caucasian, Black, Indian, everybody can have food allergies. It's not your fault and it's not prejudice.
Right. It's not your fault, but we are noticing Asians, Hispanics, African Americans are having more severe food allergic conditions and chronic allergies in general. So although anyone can have it, there are certain populations due to multifactorial reasons where they may be having more severe conditions and more severe reactions to certain foods.
Wow. And is there any that a different population has than the other?
They vary. So
They vary. Okay.
they vary between the population. It could be related to environmental exposures. Predisposition for dust mite allergy can increase your risk for sensitization for shrimp and shellfish. So it varies, but we are definitely noticing that there are distinct differences.
Wow.
And the severity is significantly affected. And that's not just for food allergies. We see that in asthma.
And I know because you treat asthma and eczema as well. What is their cross relation with food allergies?
Great question. And so when I talk about allergic conditions, there's significant overlap between seasonal allergies asthma, eczema, and food really. And so oftentimes is patients that have significant eczema, they're at risk for asthma, food allergens, seasonal allergies.
So all those commercials on eczema could actually be, not that you don't want to treat the eczema, but it could be triggered from a food allergy. Or
yes and no. You're absolutely right. Patients that have eczema are at risk for a food allergy, but I pause because we don't want to assume that just because you have eczema is triggered by a food allergy. In fact, it's only about 30% of my moderate to severe eczema patients that also have a food allergy. But it's something that we're keeping in the back of the mind. And like I tell many of my families, I will see their child having eczema. It's like, this may be one of the very first signs that you have an allergic individual. Let's look out for this and this. We're going to do early introduction. But if you have these symptoms, let's be aware that you have food allergies. So just really a lot of education.
Well, and then, and I was watching something that you did on seasonal allergies, and you just mentioned it too, but one of the number one blogs that I have on my website is about the food that triggers seasonal allergies, like with like birch allergies and things like that. Is that for real?
I think you're talking about oral allergy syndrome. Yes. And so that's another thing that we see with a lot of patients, adult patients, even adolescent patients, even kids, who basically, I almost call it the immune system's a bit confused. And so you could see a patient who has significant ragweed allergy, and then they have their mouth that itches whenever they have a banana, avocado, cantaloupe, honeydew, or watermelon. Often not all of them, but some of them. And it's because their immune system is getting confused between the plant protein and the ragweed pollen.
Wow. And how do you solve that problem or figure that out?
Yes. Well, so engaging with a board certified allergist was super helpful. The patient's usually going to complain itchy sensation with certain foods, and the allergist will have the skin test and will usually be able to put it together, ragweed allergy with this pollen, with this fruit allergy. Oftentimes these patients will say, well, doctor, it only happens when I have a raw banana. If I make a banana cake or banana bread, I don't have this problem. So it's the raw fruit, and it gets much better when it's cooked or baked.
Right. And I know there's some people with the egg allergy and the milk allergy that's the same thing, right?
No, it's not one size fits all. Each food allergy is different. You need to have a professional to tease out these different nuances in order to get you on the right track.
Okay. No, that's a really important message to say, because it's not just, you might not be, it might be, hey, that was cooked with such and such, and that's what caused the reaction, right?
Or allergy syndrome instead of anaphylactic to egg, which is totally different. Most of our oral allergy syndrome, most do not progress into throat tightness, vomiting, diarrhea. Then they have a little oral itch at the top of the mouth. It's uncomfortable, but it's unlikely to present with a life-threatening anaphylactic episode.
Okay. All right. So explain that to people, life-threatening anaphylactic.
So not every allergy is that way, but what I'm saying is I was trying to differentiate between how oral allergy syndrome would present as opposed to anaphylaxis. And the term anaphylaxis, which also means allergic reaction. And so what I mean by that is your child eats a peanut and develops full body hives and starts vomiting. As allergists, we consider that an allergic reaction, anaphylaxis, because the skin is one organ system and the gut is the other. And so when I'm explaining to families, individuals, kids, and adults, they'll often say, well, doctor, how do I know it's an allergic reaction versus one hive? And the definition truly is affecting a two organ systems.
Okay. All right. I think that's a really important designation for people to understand about that too. So, okay. So we're going to wrap it up here in a few minutes. Do you have examples? And I don't want to end on a bad note. I'm going to ask this question and then we'll pipe it up, but negative examples that you have experienced as a food allergy mom, or that you've seen your patients experience that has negatively affected them.
Unfortunately, yes. And I can talk about an experience that we just had recently. There's so many, unfortunately. And so really being able to spin in a positive way is what I try to do. But bullying is a real thing that we see as pediatricians and allergists, where parents can complain, where they're isolated, or someone tried to put a peanut in their kid's sandwich, not understanding that this really isn't that funny. And of course, the intention of that child is not to harm another child. But this is where the education comes into play. And so bullying, isolation, anxiety being associated with having a food allergy, this is why one size fits none. All of these different pieces are things that the family, teachers, doctors need to think about when we're managing this chronic allergic condition. And so we can't solve all the problems, but we can start with not only educating our food allergy kids and families, but also educate non-food allergy kids and families about what it's like to have this and have to think about this breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack.
Yeah. And that's a lot of food. There's food everywhere. Yeah, I'm doing an event next week, and I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, breakfast break, lunch break, dinner reception, cocktail reception, post-party reception. That's like 7 food functions in a day. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then getting to that event, you're on an airplane, and that's a whole other conversation to have, right? So lots of stress around that. So to end this, question that I ask everybody, as a food allergy mom, as an allergist that really is about the education around food allergies, what does a safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experience look like to you?
That's a great question. I really think it has to do with the safety and transparency. As we educate food allergy families and non-food allergy families, when you go to an establishment, these parents are educated. They are learning. They know what to avoid. So as a restaurant establishment or an establishment, we need to do our part by having options, but also clearly articulating the different allergies in the food so they are empowered to make their choices. So I think that transparency, labels, being aware, and also making that family feel comfortable that we are taking into consideration food allergies at this establishment, I think will allow people to be sustainable and continue to return to that establishment over again. And I want to say the community is getting better. We're learning, we're doing better. We know we have to do better.
Okay, so how can everyone get in touch with you?
Oh, wonderful. Absolutely. Well, I have a Facebook called Allergist Doc. You can reach out to go.allergic.com, read some information and submit your email, and I'd be happy to contact you.
Awesome. Well, yeah, and I will put your Facebook page in here right now in the comments. And so everybody can just click on that link as well. And then I'll put the link to your website in the chat as well, so everybody can get in touch with you. I really appreciate this. And food allergies are an evolving disease, life-threatening disease. Yeah. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you for what you're doing. And thanks for inviting me today.
You're welcome. Everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Eating at a Meeting, where we talk all things food and beverage and how to create safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experiences. Tell your friends about us. Download us on your favorite podcast platform. It's out a new episode is out every Tuesday on audio only, and we're here live every Wednesday. Next week, I will be on site at an event, so I'm going to just do a short, quick episode to talk about what I'm serving for that group of 700 people. All right. Stay safe and eat well. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Eating at a Meeting podcast, where every meal matters. I'm Tracy Stuckrath, your food and beverage inclusion expert. Call me and let's get started right now on creating safe and inclusive food and beverage experiences for your customers, your employees, and your communities. Share the podcast with your friends and colleagues at our Eating at a Meeting Facebook page and on all podcast platforms. To learn more about me and receive valuable information, go to tracystuckrath.com. And if you'd like more information on how to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line, then visit eatingatameeting.com.